Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of CyberGangsters, Cybersecurity. How are you doing tonight, Graham?
Doing fantastic. How you doing?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Look, normally we go live on Wednesdays. Okay, we go live around 4:30, and I bring in a professional who talks about PCI and whatnot. But one of the things that I really love to do, Graham, as I'm building out this YouTube channel, I want to take a moment to really highlight and spotlight people who are in the trenches or going through the process of learning not just PCI but cybersecurity and kind of shine a spotlight on them. And so that's what I'm bringing you on tonight for. Okay.
Oh, spotlight. I don't know if I can handle that.
I think you're going to do great, man. I think you're going to do fine. So the idea here is I just want to inspire people because sometimes we go through the motion of learning and wondering, what it's like on the other side, and if there's something for us. Who better to do that than the people like yourself who are getting into it, who have gotten into it, who are attaining these goals and dreams. And so it's like, man, help me to be like you, Graham, or tell me your story so I can follow in your footsteps, or at least know that there's something at the end of the tunnel. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So with that, I want to do a little icebreaker real quick. Okay. I've got my birthday coming up next week. If anyone needs to know, my Venmo is at jpineapples, just FYI. But I had a pretty cool experience tonight. I went out and I had to get the oil change in the car. Then I was like, I'm gonna go grab a free burger at one of my favorite burger joints. I had a little coupon in my app, so I went in, ordered, got my food, and everything was going on. And then I was like, yeah, can I I'd like to pay out now. So then they came in and they were like, well, we went ahead and just pay for the soda, please. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, just pay for the soda. I was like, but I already applied my birthday coupon on there. And they're like, oh, well, we'll get that taken off so you can use it another day this month. And I was like, what? So I felt very good about going to one of my favorite burger joints, expecting a free burger because I had a coupon for it, but then getting a free burger anyway, and then them telling me to come back and use it another day this month. So I was like, what? So it made me think, Graham, just as an icebreaker again, what is one of your favorite like birthday treats or birthday experiences that you enjoy?
Uh, I think my favorite one is probably like going to a really nice steakhouse. Um, I remember a couple years ago, my wife and I we went up to Chicago, and she was doing like a 5K up there, so we just kind of made like a little mini vacation out of it, little staycation, and we went to one of the places downtown and dropped like $100 on a steak, and it was just probably the best I've ever had, short of like Vegas or something. But
Nice.
that's always my go-to is cow.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I remember for a number of years that would have been my go-to as well. And it's only until recently where I've changed it up. And I say within the last 3 years, to be honest with you. But prior to that, steak would have been my answer too. So I feel you, man. I feel you. All right, everyone. So look, Graham, you got a new position recently, didn't you?
What was that? Sorry.
You got a new position recently. You got a new job recently.
Yes.
Right?
So I recently got into a new position at Conquest Cyber, and that was after about 8 months total of job search. So I really started looking around, say January,
Uh-huh.
and it was kind of funny because I I was really hitting it hard, and things seemed like they were going great this year. Like my phone was going off the hook. I had my resume all squared away, my LinkedIn all squared away. I was ready to rock, man.
You're
And
raring to go, man.
I started getting the phone calls. I started getting reached out by recruiters.
Okay.
Um, there's a lot of like bottom feeding ones out there,
Yes, yes.
which you kind
Not
of
all
have to learn.
recruiters are built the same, everyone.
No, and some are fantastic and they'll bend over backwards for you, and others will ghost you in a heartbeat.
In a
So
heartbeat.
it all kind of depends on who you get.
So
But
let's come back to that. Let's come
yeah,
back to that, Graham.
sure.
I don't want to spoil
Um,
all the juicy goodness just yet.
hey,
So
we've got to make a show out of it.
yes, we have, because Graham will want to put everything in these next 15 minutes, and like, wait a minute, let's showmanship this up a bit. Let's give everyone some context. So Graham, what did you do prior to you preparing? We're going to do this chronologically, everyone, just so you kind of understand what we're doing. I want Graham to take us through the motion of everywhere of how he came to where he's at today. So we'll come back and let Graham finish what he's going to say. But Graham, there's some of us out there who just kind of want to know, what's your background in? Where did you
So
start?
so my background is actually very checkered. So I graduated high school in like '08, and I went directly into the military. I went into the Marines, went reserve because I was looking to go career officer at the time,
Oh, okay.
and you know I wasn't thinking too much of what may come after the military at
Sure.
that point in time. I was 18. I was stupid. Um, but my goal was to go be a fighter pilot in the Marines, and all I needed was a degree. It didn't matter what degree it was. And I'm not trying to plug degrees right now. That's just where my headspace was at the time.
No worries.
So finish all my training. I wind up at Purdue Lafayette, um, and didn't think of how I was going to pay for college. I was just happy to be there, and I quickly learned that I needed money to go to college,
That
and
usually helps out.
it does. Being able to buy books and eat is usually a good one.
Yeah.
So I hopped on a deployment in 2010, and then I just realized I wanted to take my career in a different path.
Uh-huh.
Um, I didn't know what that path was at the time, and that was kind of the problem. Um, so I got out and I started doing kind of a mix of like truck driving and compliance work at some local truck driving places around here in Indiana.
Okay.
And I didn't like that either. And I was kind of lost of what I wanted to do. I thought I might stay in the military. I thought I might go federal law enforcement. It was just kind of bouncing back and forth. There was a little idea of going back to school for mechanical engineering or chemical engineering, just something of that
Wow.
sort. I was all over the place. I was
Yeah,
a
when
I
you
was a
said
wreck.
checker, I didn't know what you were going to say there, but now I'm like, okay. And,
Um,
and that's not a bad thing, right? It's not a
no,
bad
it's
thing
it's
to.
it's not. And honestly, that's kind of this is I'm going somewhere with this, and this is exactly why I think that people definitely should wait before going to college after they graduate high school, because it gives go work, and it gives you a lot more perspective on life for what you want to do. Um,
Good advice, everyone. Good advice.
and so during that time, I got married, and we have two kids, and that kind of ex-nayed the military, staying in the military idea,
Hmm.
because I just didn't want to raise my family like that. It's hard on a military, and having a family in the military. Everybody knows.
You know,
Uh,
says you and he graduated the same year.
yeah, it's not easy. So uh, I guess I kind of came to a point where I was kind of lost, and I knew I wasn't happy where I was, and I was trying to figure out, where I wanted to take my career and where I wanted to go. And one day if any of you are old enough to remember this, I was looking at that old app, the Chive. Um,
I don't remember that one.
it was like a video or like a photo blog kind of thing. It was like one of the first ones out there. Um, and there was this post on like jobs you wouldn't think were actual jobs,
Hmm.
and one of them happened to be about ethical hacking, and I was like, "There's no way this is a freaking career. Pay you to do that? That can't be real."
You're like, ethical hacking. That's totally got to be an oxymoron.
Yeah,
Totally.
and so I'm like, this sounds interesting. So I do what everybody does. I googled it. I started looking into it, and I'm like, holy shit, this is a real career. people actually get paid to do this.
Right. Yes.
Uh, and I just went off the deep end at that point in time. And at that, you know, I was enrolled into Wilmington's cybersecurity program like a week afterwards. And again, I didn't really think about how I was going to accomplish that. But my wife and family were incredibly supportive,
Oh,
which is a testament to anybody out there. Get yourself, if you're a guy, get yourself a good woman who will back you up 110%.
it
It
totally
makes
makes a
things
difference.
so
Like,
much easier.
yes.
Um, but there I was. Was working full time, going to school full time. I did that for about 2.5 years, getting about 3.5 hours of sleep. Um, and finally, the wife was like, "You know what? You're going to take a break, and well, you finish out the rest of your school because you're not doing this anymore."
Oh man. What
Well,
a
I mean,
superstar.
I was not exactly the most pleasant person at that time because it was hard.
Yeah, I can
Um,
imagine.
but I graduated cum laude in 3 years for a 4
Way
year
to go,
degree.
man. Seriously?
Yeah.
Way to go.
Um,
You're a rock star, dude. That's crazy.
and shortly after that, and we can hop on this conversation here in a minute. About like a couple weeks after I graduated, I got my Security Plus, and then I started looking, and then COVID hit.
Oh, okay, okay.
So
And yeah.
there
Well,
was there was another very long job search during that time because just nobody was hiring. Nobody was going to hire a entry level person when they're trying to.
stay
Everybody's
water.
business model is being blown up and moving out of the office into the office. Nobody knew what was going on.
It was a crazy time then. Let's back up a little bit, Graham, if you don't
Sure.
mind. So, because I always have this idea, and I think sometimes I get a bad rap for it. Okay, you mentioned Security Plus. Okay, so let's just talk about certifications. I know as someone who has. Let me just preface first. I do not have a college degree, nor do I have any certifications. Okay. I have been 20 years in the IT industry and am planning on transitioning into cybersecurity this year. Okay. I feel like I get a bad rap sometimes because people think I don't appreciate the certifications. Let me tell you, and then I want to hear your thought on this.
Sure.
I feel like there's two schools of thought sometimes. Okay. I think if you're going to get certifications, there should be some sort of. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're
ABC
good.
certifications. If I need ABC certifications in order to have this job, whatever it may be, like, and it's defined, it's clear, then to me that makes sense. To me, it's like, okay, there's an end goal in mind with the certifications that you need, right?
Sure.
The other school of thought that I hear or believe in myself is the idea that more certifications gets me noticeable by more folks. And so then I can get hired somewhere. Where do you feel like, do you have a perspective on certifications? And let me tell you, I don't think my ideas or the schools that I hear about, I don't think one is necessarily right or wrong or anything. I think it's up to the individual, right? I'm all for learning. I am not all for stifling learning. I'm just saying, for me personally, there has to be some sort of end goal in mind with this, with the time and the money that I'm spending on things.
Absolutely.
So
Um,
you, who has your Security Plus certification, and you have another one, don't you?
I have my CISSP too.
Okay. So from your perspective, you're the expert as far as I'm concerned. What's your thought on that?
So I'm kind of in the same. I'm kind of like splitting the baby here. I think as security professionals, we need some type of credentialing to validate that we do know what we're talking about. But I don't think people should go hog wild on the certifications, and I think they need to be very selective and targeted with the certifications they pursue. Especially with some of the bigger ticket ones. Like I know a lot of the ones from Sands are fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
but you're basically not going to pass them unless you take their $6,000 course.
Wow.
So, you need to be targeted, especially when you're first starting out. Like the Security Plus is a pretty much a drop in the bucket compared to some of the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're looking to get into security specifically, don't go after, like, I've had a couple people reach out to me about this, and they're asking me certifications. Don't get your A plus. Know the A plus.
Yeah.
Like, you should be able to know, like, the connectors and what people are talking about when talking about computers. Like, you should be able to build your own computer and not
Mm-hmm.
have an issue with it. But you need a certification for that? No. Same thing with Network Plus. I still, somewhere around my desk, I have my Network Plus certification book. I don't have my network cert, but I know the book inside and out,
Yes.
because there's things in there which are not negotiable that you need to know. Like, you need to know subnetting, you need to know VLANing,
DNS. You
you
need to know
DNS.
IP, how addresses are, what they work, how do they resolve, and
Yeah,
sorry, go on.
that's all your foundational knowledge that you need to know.
Sure.
Um,
It's
but
almost like you could take the information that's available in that. You literally could have the book like you have without needing to take those tests. And those are like you said, those foundations. You can build on those, but you don't necessarily need to take the certification. And I know in my previous, so again, almost 2 decades in IT, when people who've come with their A plus certification or Network Plus certification, it doesn't really make that big of a difference when it
no, and
that's
unless you're doing some kind of help desk work where you need people, like, certified to be able to do that, that would be and even then, that would need to be some type of government agency, because the government uh, leans very heavily on CompTIA for certification.
yes.
So
Yes.
that would be a specific use case where I could see that being necessary. But
Right.
in most of the private sector, you're not going to come across that.
Do you someone
I
has
would
a question real quick on
shoot.
just real fast. It says, is Shamar here, Pearson, sorry. He's asking, is the CCNA a good start for cybersecurity? What would you say to that? I don't even know
I
what the
think
CCNA is. I'm gonna have to look that up real
that's
quick.
Cisco. That's Cisco
Oh,
certification. I kind of wrap that into the same boat as Network Plus. It's the Network Plus, but for Cisco. That's all it is.
see, and
And
one of my thought. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Cisco, a lot of the proprietary brands, Cisco is one of them, because they're, like, I'm not knocking their certifications, but they have very Cisco kind of has their own language for all the usual stuff anyway, so it
Yeah,
can
it's kind
get
of
a
like an
little.
Apple product, or they're very proprietary, very specific for their pieces.
Yeah, so I'd say if you're just starting out, that might not be the best course to take, or best pathway to take,
Mm-hmm.
just because it can get a little confusing. I'd rather know the the mainstream stuff and then move into the more specialized proprietary brand kind of certifications.
So one of what is there? I think my belief is, and what I again, not having any certifications, but I have had training through the years. I always believe that the organization that I work for should provide me those trainings and those opportunities, only because that training is going to be useful for them, right? Like, I've never been at a place. Well, let me rephrase that. Every place that I've been to in the corporate sector, at least, right, has always done a job to train me on their way of doing things using their tools. Even if it's a generalized tool in the industry, they still are like, we want you to use it the way we like to use it here. And so
Sure.
I'm usually not keen on doing certifications unless the company I work for is willing to put me through those certifications.
See, I see it both ways. Like, I think it depends on excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it depends on the certification, really. Like, if you're a ServiceNow shop and your job requires a ServiceNow administrator certification, they should be the one to pay for that and send you to training for it. But if we're talking about some of the big general certifications like Sec Plus, CISSP, CISA, um, those I'm kind of 50-50 on. You can take the initiative and go get those on your own,
Mm-hmm.
or ask your company. If you're already working in the industry and you want to pursue a certification, ask. The
Mm-hmm.
worst they're going to say is no, and then you got to pay out of pocket for it anyway. But
And we're making a big assumption here on the side of we're already with the company that we have a job in that field for, right? I know there's many of our viewers out there who aren't in the IT realm of things, and so they're trying to get into not just IT but cybersecurity specifically also, and so they are looking to learn things that'll help them be more uh, favorable in
sure,
the industry. So
and
I
that
understand that
helps.
piece.
In security, we always talk about the CIA triad, right?
Mm,
Well, there's always going to be that triad for your professional career too. Experience, education, certification. So you need to, if you're lacking on one, then you need to focus on another one. So if you don't have a whole lot of work experience, then you need to find some other way to validate that you are credible in your field and can back it up. Whether that comes in certifications, whether that comes in you know some type of education, proof of education, but you need to find something to at least get you through, um, get you past the HR screen, in to put it bluntly. And that's a lot of what I think certifications do, because everything is so automated and keyword searched these days. The day of walking in and handing your resume to somebody at a desk those days are long gone.
yeah. We got
Um,
to deal with the automation.
you have to deal with the automation, and you have to use it to your advantage.
Okay. So, and I know we spent a good time on the certifications piece, and it's very important. But I know if you guys out there have questions, definitely put them in the chat, and we'll pop them on the screen later. But with that, let's go on. Right. So you started some time, you graduated, decided to go do some military work, then you got out, and then you kind of, like you said, checkerboarded different types of jobs out there and stuff, and then um, family came along and you were like, I'm not going to be able to do the military stuff. You didn't want to be a military husband, father. And so you started doing all these other things. Then you finally get into a field position in IT.
Yeah. So my first position was doing, like GRC consulting, but it was very focused on CMMC, which is, it's kind of the new kid on the block in terms of compliance frameworks, but a lot of government entities and supply chain entities are coming under scrutiny for it.
Hmm.
Um, and not to bore anybody with a compliance conversation here, but in essence, it's controlling unclassified information. So if say the government puts out a buy for 20 F-35s or something like that, that goes to, I don't know who makes it, but they go to like Lockheed Martin or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, Lockheed Martin needs to get all the parts so they can fabricate that F-35 and give it to the government. So they're going to be buying from a bunch of different lower tier subcontractors to build those parts so they can put it all together. Those all those plans and all those pieces and designs for that plane are all, they're not classified, but they're still controlled by the federal government.
Hmm.
CMMC is supposed to harden security standards for entities that process that type of manufacturing.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So it's like a security framework that exists for government, any type, not any type, specific government contracts that go to build things for
Correct.
them. Okay, so this is similar. So Graham, I currently work at Caterpillar HQ, for example, right now, and so in the
You guys are
manufacturing
subject to it.
industry, we have, well, for the government pieces, yes, that, but also for the general population type stuff, we have the Six Sigma, for example, which is the
Hmm.
framework, the methodology that they use in the manufacturing business. In the IT world, in the corporate world, we have something called ITIL. And so I hear what you're saying. So these are all great things. If you're out there listening to this and you're hearing these terms for the first time, it would behoove you to go online and just do a search on here. I have a good friend. His name is Kyle Kelly. He has gone on, and if you were to hear this man speak, he has mastered forming I or he can explain IT concepts so well, but he's never held a job in the IT realm. He took the time as he learned new IT concepts. He was like, I'm just going to go spend 15 minutes. I'm going to go do a Google search, watch a couple videos on it, and just get kind of a general idea of it. From doing that, every time he heard a new term, now when he speaks, he sounds like he's been in the field for years. Okay. Take your time to do the same thing. Pause the video. Well, not if you're rewatching this, pause the video, write down the stuff that Graham is mentioning here, and then just go do a quick Google search on it, watch a couple videos on YouTube, and just see if you can glean information. I also believe that if you don't have access to the funds or the availability to get those certifications, gaining that information that's so readily and free on the internet, it could turn you into an expert and people wouldn't even know.
So actually, that's one of the things that I did. And I'm gonna give some free plugs here to
Come on.
a couple
Yes.
people. Um, so obviously, when I was driving or doing that kind of like trucking work,
Mhm.
um, you spend a lot of time where you're just kind of like sitting there listening to the radio. Well, I would plug in security podcasts because I'm a freaking nerd
Oh,
apparently.
Graham, you're
And
speaking my language. Drop it. Yes.
Paul's Security Weekly was my go-to. Um, and the first couple times I listened to him, I'm like, I have no idea what these people are saying. Like they were talking at such like a high
Yes.
esoteric level,
Uh-huh.
um, but that kind of fueled my curiosity. And actually, it was kind of a double-edged sword because when I was going through school, I was like, I was in that mindset before Boyd kind of got it out of me. But I was like, I have to learn everything. I need to learn ethical hacking. I need to learn programming. I need to learn networking. I need to learn this and this and this and this. And my brain was gonna like explode because I was
Mm.
trying to consume so much knowledge all at once and
Okay.
not
Yep.
focus on anything particular. Um, so I kind of had to dial it back a little bit and focus. I had to focus on what I was trying to do at the moment, and then make notes and make a plan to go back and relearn some of this stuff that I was kind of putting off to the back burner.
Do you have a cybersecurity or a PCI notebook, handbook, whatever?
I
Giant.
have about 3, 4 different notebooks. One for you know it all just kind of depends on
Sure,
what it
sure.
is.
No, I have another friend. Her name is Janae, and she and one of my previous, she's guest hosted on here with me before, and Peggy. They have both shown off their impressive size notebooks on here before, and I'm like, man, I must have missed something because I don't think I know I don't have a notebook. I have digital notebooks galore, but I don't have a physical notebook like you guys.
I a part of me likes the old like physical handbook of it, and
Uh-huh.
I'm actually getting a tablet here soon just so I can stop having notebooks scattered around and be able to write on the tablet
Sure,
and
yeah.
find kind of like a happy medium of it. But
That
yeah,
makes sense. Okay, so
yeah.
I'm impressed by that, because, like I said, just there's a lot of people. I'm like, man, I really missed the mark on making my own notebook for stuff. But okay. So you you learned a bunch of these terms. You said you took a step back. Now, I think a lot of our viewers, a lot of our peers who are out there, kind of, they're watching this because they're hearing about someone's success story. They hear that and they're like, maybe they connect with that, Graham. They're feeling, man, I feel like I've had to be an expert too. I feel like there's so much I don't know. There's so much information in the cybersecurity realm, and specifically speaking in the PCI realm, because that's where Graham and I met each other through the PCI realm. And so I know that there are a lot of people who feel like when they get to learning about so much, a lot of the topics in PCI, they're thinking, I need to go get so many certifications. I need to go learn about all these things. I need to take new classes. It's like they're trying to learn all this other stuff on it. And so I love how you mentioned you were taking time out of your schedule that already existed. And instead of carving new time, trying to find new time to learn stuff, you took the opportunity you had in the moment to learn those things. So like the podcast, and I agree with you on there. It might sound like science fiction at first, it might sound like a new language.
The first time you hear somebody talking about a Kubernetes hive, you're like, I what?
You're like, baby's whose mama's daddy what?
Yeah. So absolutely. And here's another thing that I think a lot of people may miss here. Don't be afraid to learn from your past and your past experiences and bring those forward and find ways that security or information technology connects to it. Once I started diving into cybersecurity, I was like, wait a minute, I've been doing this since I was 12 and learning how to connect my Xbox to a network and counter hackers on Xbox Live back when Halo 2 was still a thing. Like,
mention Halo.
My entire generation was flirting with $100,000 career just with their MySpace access.
Like, oh yeah,
all of that
HTML. Didn't even know they were doing
HTML and JavaScript. Like,
yeah,
we all could have had careers if somebody had told us like this was a thing.
Mm-hmm. I feel you. Yep.
So, definitely don't be afraid to dig into your past and, kind of play connect the dots and pull from your past experiences. It can definitely.
You feel like
help.
that type of perspective on that definitely is a helpful resource for folks.
Absolutely.
Okay. You heard it here, guys. I agree with Graham. And so a lot of times I hear that too. And I'm thinking you might know more than you didn't realize.
Yeah. So. And sometimes all it takes is just somebody to tell you that.
Okay.
And that's what happened to me when we were at Baxter Lewis. I was showing my resume to somebody and they're like, oh, no, you have plenty of experience. Just look here and here and here. I'm like, what are you talking about? And she was like, absolutely you do.
Okay.
And
we'll come back to there. Hold on real quick. Sure. So what got you? Okay. So then you got into the IT field after the truck driving and everything?
Yes.
Okay. Because you said before, when you were ready, COVID hit, you were ready to get into it and it just... The world went crazy, right?
The world went crazy,
yes.
And I found a company that would bring me in, and it was a small company,
okay,
but it was a fantastic experience, and I will preach this to the heavens: start at someplace small.
Okay. So let's encapsulate that a little bit, Graham.
Sure.
Because I know a lot of people, that's something that they would want to know more about. So how did you decide to go to any company and then realize, oh, this is a smaller company, I want to really try to go here? Can you give our viewers some insight you experienced that you could share? Like, what was the job hunting for example? Like, were you just on LinkedIn? Were you on Dice? Were you on Indeed even?
So I think I was just like on Indeed or ZipRecruiter or something like that at that point in time.
So just a regular job?
Yeah, just regular job search. I wasn't looking, I didn't know all the, LinkedIn marketing techniques that I know now.
And you didn't have any prior IT experience?
No prior experience in IT at all. The only thing I had to my name was a degree. And that was no experience, at least none that I knew that I could market myself. That was
where you were like, yeah, I can do this. I can come here and I can do this. This was just a straight up, I like this job description. I'm going to try to apply for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I managed to land the position. And because it was a small company,
Mm-hmm.
and because the IT team was incredibly small, I basically came in and was able to be essentially build out the entire security department at that company.
So you came to a company that had a very small IT team, but no security team per se. And I know how this is. I've been in this situation. The IT team is responsible for anything and
Yeah,
everything remotely
there's
close to.
no security department or
Yeah,
applications.
there's
It's
no
just all
database
IT.
admins. There's no network security. There's not a enterprise engineering team. The IT team is all of it. Okay.
Right.
So, but you in that position, within that position, you were able to kind of basically pitch a security aspect to them, which they
Yeah.
went ahead and were like, all right, we need it. Graham, head it up.
So they did some lower tier aerospace manufacturing, and they needed to become CMMC compliant. So they were like, here's our project. Here's where we need to be. We need to be level 2, or it was level 3 at the time for 1.0. Now with 2.0, they were only had to be level 2. But they were like, we need help getting there, and we have a lot of work that we need to catch up on. So there I was, new IT guy, writing. They didn't have any kind of internal policy for security or incident response or anything like that. So I got to come in, hit the ground running with that, build out all this internal documentation, do all the hands-on networking and VLANing and making the ACLs for the firewalls. Thankfully, we had Cisco Meraki at the time, so a lot of it was pretty easy to do. I wasn't having to go from switch to switch to switch.
Mm-hmm.
It could all be done by cloud. But then learning, they had like a very complex architecture that I eventually came back and was like, hey, let's try to change this. And that was after a couple of years after I kind of really cut my teeth there. I got to present more, I'd say, modernized security initiatives for the company. It got to bring on more cloud tools and utilize those tools that they were already using. And that experience was invaluable for me getting a new job. Learning to communicate with those stakeholders that are not IT related, they're manufacturing related, they're business related. Learning those kind of issues and the problems that they have with IT, and then subsequently the issues that related to security and how we can correlate that to solve the security issue, but also forward the business issues that they had.
So a multifaceted response to what was needed in the business, right? Like you were able to handle multiple things that the company had. Okay, real quick. So going back a little bit, what can you give any insight into how anyone would look for a small company, like you're saying? Is there, I don't know if you know or not, but are you able to give anything to anyone that says, hey, here's how I saw that they were a small company, or here's how you can do now? Because I'm sure time has passed and things, it's kind of updated, kind of, whatnot. But are there any tips or things that you can give to the viewers that would say, here's how you can tell if they're a small company or not? And if not, we can move on. But
you can usually judge that. LinkedIn has made it way easier to do that now. Just do some, open source intelligence on them. Google them. If you don't recognize the name, that's usually a good start.
So I think you're right. LinkedIn. I think sometimes, I don't know if it's all the time or whatever, but on LinkedIn, I don't know. And I didn't think about it until you said it a moment ago. I think if you pull up certain companies on LinkedIn, they will actually tell you how many people are employed there. I don't know if it's accurate or not, but I do feel like it is a good barometer, maybe.
It'll give you a good guesstimate. And if there's not that, then you can just look at how many people that are associated with the company on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a good idea too.
And because I know what you're talking about, and they have like a general metrics of the company, especially for the bigger ones. But that's only if their social media marketing people keep up with it.
Okay,
So
and that's what I was wondering was that piece.
take
Okay,
it with a grain of salt.
but hey, the advice here is look for those small companies. If that's what you got, that's what you got too. Okay. Okay.
Cut your teeth in a small company.
So okay, so you're saying, all right, there was something else a little bit after that. Oh, how small was the IT team that you were on? Actually, and how small was the company? If you can't share, if you can't, I understand too. How small was the IT team when you came on board?
When I came on, it was the IT team was 3 people, counting myself. Then it went down to myself and the IT director. And then now that I'm leaving, counting myself, it was a 4-man show.
So there was definitely some some roller coaster numbers going on there. So okay.
And I'd say the overall company size was probably 500, give or take.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, all right. So it's not the definitive for all companies, everyone, but it gives us Graham's insight for him, so you can start building on that as we speak and you speak with others and hear their advice and stuff. You can just add this to the pool because I think that's important and it's great advice, Graham. Okay,
sure.
All right. So then you are there. You've been there. You're still kind of there from what I heard you say. At some point in there, you wanted to make another change. So you got into the IT realm, right? You were doing it good. You've been handling it. Now you kind of, at some point, tell me through the process, the thought process with a heart or life experience, whatever it was that helped you move from, hey, I kind of like this, but now I really want to dip into cybersecurity.
So I was kind of like there. I was already doing kind of cybersecurity work, but I wasn't sure exactly if I wanted to stay in compliance or if I wanted to go more so into the security engineering aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
I a part of me kind of wanted to stay away from engineering just because I don't like to code.
Yeah.
I some people love it, others hate it. I'm one of the people that hate it, so I leave it to the people that love it.
Makes sense. I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
So I was kind of looking for a new place to go. I knew I was going to have to leave Schaefer eventually, just because of the size and just getting new opportunities and new exposures. Just there's a lot happening in the IT space in general, and if you stay at the smaller companies, you are eventually going to get left behind in terms of exposure to all the newfangled stuff. Like if you start out in a Microsoft shop, find a place that has AWS and go work there. And vice versa. You need exposure to multiple different architectures, different technologies, different tools.
Yeah.
You need to be able to pad your professional portfolio of things you have worked on.
Right. It was a complete going from the corporate world to the manufacturing industry for these last couple of years, for example, has been a big change. It's been fun. I enjoy that I can put that on my resume now, and I have some great experiences, but it is definitely a change.
It's different.
Yeah.
And likewise going from the manufacturing industry, do some time in healthcare, do some time in the financial sector.
Startups. Startups are great.
There used to be a phrase, and you might remember this one, where if you don't have a startup on your resume, you weren't trying hard enough. So,
what's so fun? Let's just time out real quick, Graham. What's fun about the startups? Not gonna lie, everyone. is the free drinks and the snack bars and all the weird amenities that come in those places. We're just always like silly in a way, but you're like, oh, I could just go fill up some almonds, pistachios, yogurt, or grab a soda, as much soda as I want for lunch breaks or anything. And then even this is the weird one. In Americans, we don't do this right, okay? Unlimited PTO, okay? We just don't know what to do with ourselves. We don't even act like kids in a candy shop, okay? We unlimited PTO or 2 weeks PTO, it's almost like it can't comprehend either. So
I'm not a huge fan of the unlimited PTO. I was actually just talking to my wife earlier about this, and I'm like, it's a trap.
it is a trap.
It's a gimmick to get you to not take
time off. Yes. But yeah, I saw a post recently. They're like, well, if you work for a place that now, it's funny how it is now. They're like, if you work for a place that offers you unlimited PTO, the general rule would be 4 to 6 weeks. And I was like, what? 4 to 6? Anyway.
I was actually interviewing for a company, and I was really upset that I had to I didn't, the timing wasn't right, but I was interviewing for a company that would literally pay you $12,000 a year just to F off on vacation.
What?
Yeah. They were a travel company, so they could give you the hookup, but they still gave you $12,000 to
like your
go
play
on
money,
vacation
basically,
and get out of the office.
How fun!
Yeah,
I
thought that was kind
look
of
for
cool.
that, Graham. I should look for that. I might need to take that up.
I'll give you the hookup afterwards.
But okay, just okay. All kidding aside, though, but going back. Okay, so figuring out what were the benefits. So it's not like I heard you say like there was anything wrong with the company. That's not what I heard you say. And that's
no,
a lot of people,
not at all.
People don't transition out of places because they don't like those. I know that in the IT realm, for example, 2 years is about the average time frame for anyone to be employed at the same business, at the same company in the IT realm. That's just the
2 to 5, I think, is usually the limit. Unless you're in. Honestly, I think that's what you kind of have to do to continue to grow professionally. Unless you're working at some of the like big four places where you're getting constant exposure to multiple different clients all the time. I think then it's only about money. I've heard about those places like in Arizona and in Texas. So like, Google, Apple, Microsoft, whoever the fourth one is that I can't think of right now. But I have seen employees who just hop around after their incumbency periods are over. They just go across the street because they're like, I'm exposed to all the same technologies or mixture of technologies, but I can go across the street and make 10,000 to 25,000 more doing the same job. And they're like, and I just got to stay there a year. And then I can hop over across the street again and do it again. Yeah. And they just bounce back and forth. And all of a sudden they're making $300K a year. But
so if you got space,
then you're miserable.
You're never. I come from that generation, Graham, where I'm like, man, it's hard to think about moving on. Like, I want to stay grounded and with the last job that you know what I mean? Like, I look forward to being able to have the last job I will ever need. You know what I'm saying? I want to retire out, but
the days of having a 20-year pension and a Rolex when you retire are gone, man.
They're gone.
Like, you need to. I don't like sounding like a jerk about it, but you need to be ruthless in the pursuit of your own self-interest.
Preach it, Graham. Preach it, man. If not you, then who? If you don't pursue it for yourself, who's going to pursue it for you?
And I will also say this: you need a work-life balance. Nobody is going to remember how much overtime you worked. Except for your kids, for all the birthdays and parties and get-togethers and ball games that you missed.
And I want to, especially to you guys those of you who are listening, and you're getting into this field, I think that's a great thing to hear right now, is that you'll want to overwork yourself because you're new and you want to prove out. I'm not saying don't do it. We all have gone in there, But do not forget that this is a mutually beneficial relationship with our employers, because at some point they're going to be okay to be like, so, it can be mutually beneficial for both parties. It doesn't need to be, I'm going to stay loyal to my company just because what? Because I'm just loyal. But then the day the lines go in the red, they're going to go ahead and cut me so that they can get back in the black.
Yeah.
Because I'm not that important. So
And it won't be anything personal to
it won't
you.
be. Mm-mm.
It'll be just business,
And you'll
and
think
that's the way you
I
need to
am the
look at
greatest
yourself too.
person. I'm the senior person. And you're like, it just gets crazy when it gets into the business world, guys.
Yeah.
You just need to take care of yourself. You need to look out for yourself because no one else will. Okay. Me included. Okay. Graham included too. Anyhow. Okay, Graham. So then you want this transition. You want to learn. You want to grow. How did you decide to go down that path? Was there something that sparked you? It was like, you were already in the security team. Now you're wanting to broaden your horizons more. And so you started looking for like an all-out cybersecurity role, and you fell into PCI?
Yeah, I guess that's a good way to put it. Um,
Well, tell us in your words.
so I was looking for something more. I was looking for more exposure, and that's kind of how I fell into PCI and doing work at BCC. Um, knew I needed more exposure to other frameworks besides what I had, and what I had was good, um, because it was all NIST based. And for those of you in the compliance space, learn NIST 853. That is the Bible of all compliance frameworks. I don't care what anybody says. Everything is based off of 853. PCI is based off it. CMMC, which is essentially NIST 171, everything comes back to NIST 53.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, NIST just updated this week. Right?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure they did. I don't remember the number, but I think it's the first update in like 10 years.
I think I did see. Was it version 5 out? I don't know. I'll need to go through and check my emails because
I'm still not. I am not trying to say you're wrong or anything like that.
I've been lazy this week, so
no. And it's just 1 week, and that's how it is. So I would still follow your advice, Graham. Through our process of learning these things, it should come out what the new versions are. Like we have something similar for PCI, right? But there's always dates involved of when cutoff dates are and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know about, all I know is that there was a new version of NIST that did come out, but that's all I know. So,
and there's always flexibility with those. Like there's companies can still have 321 for PCI until next year.
Yep.
But mature entities are trying to get themselves certified for 4.0
for the new ones.
So
okay. So you saw the PCI. So think about it from this perspective. Someone's interested in cybersecurity. Either they don't know to go check out PCI, or they have kind of made up their mind on PCI. Where was your definitive? This is the field. What was it for you that made you say PCI is what I wanted to learn next? If you can recall what it was.
I don't even think I had that kind of deep thought about it. It was just something I wanted to learn, so I went and did it. I loved it when I was working with it. I still love it. Mm-hmm. Eventually, I wouldn't mind circling back and getting my QSA. I might even be able to get my QSA at the new company. I don't know. It just kind of all depends on where the winds of change riding dollar bills takes me. So yeah. I don't necessarily know where it's going.
And so for those of y'all listening, like, you heard him say QSA, for example, right now. In the PCI realm, there are several designations that exist, right? It goes down from PCIP, PCI professional. These are certifications that are granted by the PCI Security Council. Okay, you can go to their website and you can see them, but you can start off as a PCIP, which is a certification that follows you as an individual no matter where you go. You can go to an ISA, which is an internal security assessor, and that is only with you because a company that you work for sponsors you and has paid thousands of dollars for you to get that certification, but it only stays with you so long as you're employed at the company that sponsored you. If you leave that company and go to a different one, it does not follow you, and you have to repeat the sponsorship all over again. Then there's a QSA, a qualified security assessor. A QSA, give me a second. QSA A, I think. A QSA associate. That's what it stands for. And so you have to work at a QSA company specifically, kind of like there's a law firm. You have to work at a QSA company. You have to be sponsored, and you have to follow a QSA for 2 years before you remove the QSA associate designation, and then you apply and you have to be sponsored again to get your QSA designation finally. But your pre-qualification for that is that you spent 2 years as a QSA A learning from a qualified security assessor. Okay. Anyhow, with that, I just wanted to kind of clear that because this is PCI general we're talking about here, and when you hear those terms, I just wanted you to have more knowledge. This is the point where the little star comes across says the more you know. Okay,
so in a little deeper dive into that. So a QSA A is kind of like an intermediate. It's like an intermediate trainee where you're kind of moving from like an ISA standpoint to a QSA, but you may not have all the prerequisite certifications to go get your QSA, because in order to, for those that don't know, in order to obtain a QSA, you need your CISSP, your CISA, or your CISM. So those are,
and there's prerequisites to those too, right?
Yeah, each of those needs at least 6 years or other certifications or education to be able to take. So, and I will forewarn you that they do actually go pretty deep into those requirements.
You mean like your history?
Your job history, like they want everything. They want names, they want emails, phone numbers, addresses.
Jeez.
Like they go and check.
Yeah.
But in order to get the QSA, which legitimately have very important jobs in the PCI world, they want to have some type of credentialing before they award those type of certifications.
When you say credentialing, like basically having certain certifications.
Certifications, yeah.
Okay. See, and this is what I was saying like earlier, like having certifications with those end goals in mind, to me, it makes sense. It makes sense why you're getting a bunch of them, right? So, but okay. So how did you apply to get a job in PCI? Or take us through that piece next now.
So when I applied to BCC, it was kind of a moonshot. I was either going to go work in some type of compliance work, or I was going to go back to school.
Okay.
And if I was going to go back to school, it was going to be at SANS to get my master's. And at that point in time, I was like, look, I had already shucked out a good chunk of my own money for my education. Getting back to what I mentioned earlier, your personal experience triad that you have, where was I lacking? I felt like I was really lacking in hands-on experience working in compliance or cybersecurity in general. So I wanted to go and get that real world experience. And that's what I went and did. I joined BCC, went through their program, got trained up in PCI, went and worked on them with their clients, and it was very, very eye-opening in terms of, like, to me it was easy because
Okay.
I had felt like I had been doing it my entire life. Um, but it was also very rewarding in terms of, the actual hidden value in compliance that that you can use to bring to the company. And I think that's what really solidified me into wanting to kind of stay in the GRC track of things for
Hmm.
cybersecurity, um, because I feel like it brings a lot of different people together. Um, if you're working in like the red teaming or the blue teaming, you have very specific niche jobs that
Yes.
you do, and
Yes.
you really only see the impact working in those fields. With compliance, you're learning the business, you're learning all these different aspects of the entire company, and you're
Ah,
bringing it together into cybersecurity, and you're learning how security impacts those other facets of the business.
yes.
Um,
So it's
and
more
being
than just learning about the framework or the methodology that exists for the
Yes,
cybersecurity piece. There's that business component, like you have to know how the business works. You have to be responsible and you know for making sure that their business is staying compliant from the framework.
absolutely. And learning that and being able to communicate on that level with various stakeholders and communicate to the director level to the C-suite, those all um, those are very beneficial skills. And I think that learning those kind of skills is what is going to separate you from being a SOC manager or being a director
Mm.
in a company.
Okay, I
Being
like how you
able to
said.
being able to communicate on a business level and relay and communicate business risks for security is going to set you apart in the long run.
So, and okay, so you guys listening to that, like it's not just being able to know your framework, your methodology. It's not about just mastering it either. It's about being able to take that methodology, the framework, in this case, the PCI DSS, for example, but being able to translate it in a way that
Uh-oh, did it freeze again? It did freeze again.
my back.
Yep, there you are.
Okay. It's not about
Feed your hamster, dude. He's struggling over there.
but it's about being able to communicate that framework, that methodology to the business in their language, to be able to in language that they can understand. And I've told people that before. I've told people that I think it's helpful if you also take up something like Toastmasters. I don't know if you ever heard of Toastmasters, Graham. I've been a Toastmaster for a number of years, but it's a public speaking club that exists out there.
That's actually a new one on me. I haven't heard of that one.
So they you practice giving public speeches over and over again. And it took me from being able to just talk out loud and to people, right? From being able to just talk to people to actually speak in public. And there's a big difference to that. They help you with like your filler words. They help you read your audience. They tell you how to make eye contact. Then they teach you how to add on to that. And they're like, here, use these types of topics, funny topics, business topics, panel discussions, all these different types of public speaking. They're like, now take that on top of that. And then they're like, okay, we're going to have contests. Now take that on top of that. Now we're going to do timing, control how you deliver these different types of topics. Put that on top so that essentially you are just this well-built machine of speaking publicly, and you can take it. It's I tell people like the reason I can speak on any topic these days is because of Toastmasters. So
That's fantastic advice. Um, yeah, I'm gonna go check that out now. And I will also say, and here's a little parting knowledge that I got from a TED talk. Be able to not only communicate effectively but quickly and concisely. Um, I heard at this TED talk that a good meeting is a lot like a mini skirt. It's short enough to hold your attention, but long enough to cover the subject. So
I don't know that I remember that one, but it makes sense. Okay, so yes, I agree. And one of my buddies, he was watching earlier. I don't know if he's still in here. He would be like, "Yes, he's talking to you, Jaime, right now. That message was all for you." And I would be like, "Yes." Sadly, as great as Toastmasters taught me so many different things, the one thing that is just hard for me to control is being concise, Graham. That's my biggest challenge. Okay.
hey, at least you know.
At least I know. At least I know. Okay, so I know we're getting wrapped up because I want to be respectful for people's times and stuff. But okay, before we do that though, you got into the position. You are actually a cybersecurity consultant. You're going to be working or are already working in PCI.
So actually, this next one it's kind of a mix. It's not necessarily PCI. It's kind of all the above.
Mm-hmm.
It's GRC, which is the umbrella term for compliance work.
Sure.
So some of it may be PCI, some of it may be uh, NIST or some other framework. It all just kind of depends on what client we're working with.
Okay.
Um, Another suggestion that I would throw out there is learn COBIT. And
COVID.
COBIT, it's a government. I don't want to call it a framework. It's more of an enabler, and it helps people. It helps business executives identify areas of security and how it can be used to enable business. There's a questionnaire with it, and learning that questionnaire and anticipating answers to it, I think, goes a long way in any type of initial interview or scoping interview that you're going to be doing. And just um, very forward thinking. I've found. I think it's a very useful tool to have in your cap.
I appreciate that. We might need to bring someone who teaches COBIT and come on here and and teach us a little bit about it based off of your suggestion. So I put it up there, everyone. If you're interested in that, Graham said COBIT, and it stands for Control Objectives for Information Technologies. So you can put that in Google search, so you can go glean some information from it. But Graham, I might need to find someone to come on here and talk about COBIT for us in a bigger sense, if that makes sense. So
Absolutely, do
thank you
it.
for that. Thank you for that. So Graham, first, what I want to do is I want to give you some screen time to just kind of share any information, anything, if you have your grandma's favorite chocolate chip cookie recipe, if
That's secret.
okay. Anything that you kind of want to just leave anyone off with. I'm going to give you some time on the screen so you can just kind of share with the audience what your thoughts are, your parting thoughts.
I would say that my parting thoughts are never lose your thirst for knowledge. Always be learning. Uh, Never try to be the smartest person in the room. If you are, you're in the wrong room. Um, Seek out new opportunities, new pathways for yourself. Nobody else is going to do it for you. Uh, there's a line from Hamilton where I can't remember exactly what it is because now, of course, I'm on the hot seat and I can't remember it. But it's like, never going to stop, or it's never enough.
Don't throw
Um,
away your shot.
yeah, just keep on striving, keep on going for it. It took me a long time to get here, even after I thought I had it in the bag. You know, don't let the economy, don't let the job market or speculation throw you off. Keep pushing for it. Uh, you'll always get there as long as you put in the work. But you do have to put in the work. Um, and it's worth it when you do.
Awesome. Excellent. Thanks, Graham. So, Graham, I really appreciate you coming on tonight and sharing with us everything, telling us your story. After you get more involved in this next project or something, let me know. Maybe we come bring you back in and share some new or anything else that's come up, and share with the audience. That way people can. I think it's great when we see the people that like you are who we want to be. Does that make sense? Like, you are the future. You are what we're looking to become and do. We want to get into that work. We want to do the work. We want to know that the studying, the hard work, the sacrifice that we're putting in right now, it can be there. It is there. Not that it can be there. It is there. And that's you're on that side. You were over here. Now you're over there.
And be kind to yourselves. The person you were 5 years ago is proud of where you're at now. And the same will be true in another 5 years. Just keep on going at it. You'll get it.
Thanks, Graham. I appreciate you. So listen, I'm going to put you in the green room for a couple minutes while I say goodbye to everyone. But thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us tonight, okay?
No, thank you for having me. It was fun.
I'm glad it was. Hang out and we'll be right back, okay?
All right.
All right, everyone. So that was Graham, and you can find him on LinkedIn. He is you'll see the promo. It's here. Graham Cardwell. Feel free to reach out to him and connect with him on LinkedIn. Hit him up with any questions or thoughts, and just to see his career path and where it goes and where it takes him also. But I really appreciate him coming on. I've said before, CyberGangsters, Cybersecurity. I wanted to use this platform in order to help learners learn more, right? I want to contribute. I want to create. I don't want to just consume media, but I want to create it. If you're like me, you probably went out and were looking for PCI related content out there, and it's a little challenging, right? For me, I realized that either the content was old or the content was brand new. No, not even brand new. A little still old, right? Like it was either 2 years or 7 years or longer. And so I didn't really see anything current. And I am trying to bridge that gap by bringing people who know about PCI, put it on YouTube, bring it out there so that people can ask questions and we can learn from them and we can see what they have to offer. But also for when people succeed in what we're trying to do, let's hear for them. Let's shine that spotlight on them, and let's have an opportunity to ask them questions, because if you want to be like someone, you imitate what they've done, right? You imitate what they've done and you make it. And so I appreciate Graham coming on tonight. I appreciate you all coming out and hanging out and listening and watching. I hope you're able to get something out of this. And if you have an idea for a future episode, let me know. If you have someone who you think might be good to be a guest on here, let me know. Put us in contact so I can bring them on here also, okay? But with that said, let me throw a couple of comments out here. Tisha, great advice. Thank you for sharing your story, Graham. Kofi says, congrats, Graham, on your new role. This is Ed. Kofi says, thank you. Brandon's here. He's saying thank you also. Kofi/Ed saying, great job, Jaime. We appreciate that. But with that being said, hey, we'll be back on Wednesday. I will be back with Peggy, and she is going to drop some more PCI professional knowledge on us. And then if you, like I said, if you know anyone who you want to put me in contact with to come onto the show, let me know, okay? You guys have a great night and have a great weekend, and keep pressing hard, you cyber gangsters.